Welcome back to my Pokemon Platinum Hardcore Nuzlocke using only Poison Type Pokemon. In the last episode, we completed a few more milestones by taking on Byron and his Steel types, nearly the entirety of Team Galactic's upper management, as well as Candace and her brutally punishing squad. With Crobat down and out, we are down to our final 5 Pokemon. Cyrus and the Distortion World are up next. Let's do this. With the ability to utilize Rock Climb outside of battle, it's time to take on the bulk of Mount Coronet. I guess in a way it's kinda nice that we don't have to worry about who we should take with us to Spear Pillar. Normally we would have to devise a team that can handle both the double battle against Mars and Jupiter and the final fight against Cyrus. But hey, we don't have to worry about it now. The TM for Rock Slide could be useful on Toxicroak if we really need the rock coverage, which is actually a pretty good type to bring to the Distortion World with you, as Cyrus's entire team is weak to it if I'm not mistaken. I wonder if Game Freak placed it here on purpose, or if this is just a coincidence. Can you just stop it already? Please, I'm so done with you. I do find the cave painting aspect of this to be a little odd. I know that it doesn't really matter at all, it's just ever since I started creating Pokemon content, I've noticed these little details pop up more and more. Sometimes they're cool, and sometimes they confuse me. Like, why is this here? Wouldn't it have made more sense if it was covering the entrance to Spear Pillar? Anyway, I can just as easily question this Galactic Grunt's decision to hold on to his Stunky even at level 43. Or why we need 17 HMs to traverse this place. These are just random things that I think about. I guess despite this being one of the bigger dungeons quote unquote in the game, there's really not a whole lot to talk about. Lots of useless trainers to plow through, but outside of the Rock Slide TM, there's not too much to go over. And with that being said, we have arrived at Mount Coronet's apex, Spear Pillar. Mars and Jupiter are up first. Let's do this. I'm wondering if at any point in this fight would it actually make sense to take out Barry's Munchlax ourselves in order to bring out some of his stronger Pokemon. I'm not sure. Typically his Staraptor is sent out next, which would guarantee an attack drop against both opposing Pokemon. But at the same time, Munchlax is pretty decent at soaking up hits at least. Normally we will go for the same sort of strategy we usually use when it comes to tough double battles like this and focus on taking out one trainer at a time. But the big problem here for us is that these Bronzors will actually hurt quite a lot regardless of who we switch into next. If both Skuntank and Bronzor target Gengar and we switch into something else, we could easily lose a team member. Instead, I know that Gengar can take out the Bronzor with a single Shadow Ball, and I know that the Night Slash from Skuntank will not kill unless it crits. We take that risk here. And Gengar holds on. Unfortunately, that also means that we cannot utilize him for the rest of the fight, at least not easily. Mars's Golbat comes out next, and we switch into Toxicroak, hoping for the double Dark type attack. We do get hit with the bite, but Skuntank actually goes for the Poison Jab on Munchlax instead. And it kills, which is surprising to me. I thought for sure Munchlax would be able to take a hit like that, but I guess not. That's actually a very favorable outcome for us though, as now Staraptor can come in and apply an attack drop to both Skuntank and Golbat. This also means that I can utilize Earthquake as well, without harming Barry's Pokemon. It only deals about half to Skuntank, and the Citrus Berry heals it for quite a lot. I'm really missing our own Skuntank now. The Staraptor slams into Golbat for a ton of damage, and while the Air Cutter in response is nothing too crazy, the Flamethrower from Skuntank brings us down into the yellow. Time to make another switch, and this time it's into Tentacruel. Staraptor misses his takedown, but luckily our switch overall was fairly clean. I go for the Protect first, which allows us to utilize Barry's Pokemon instead of our own, offensively at least. This can be a fairly useful strat in this fight, since Barry should have a team of either 5 or 6 Pokemon at this point, unlike what we had to deal with back in Iron Island with Riley. Unfortunately, the Aerial Ace isn't enough to take Golbat down, but Barely smartly goes for the easy quick attack on the next turn to finish the job while we go for Ice Beam. This Skunk Tank is just so hard to kill. Staraptor falls, and now Purugly and Rapidash join the fight. I kinda wish we had gotten Heracross here, only because Rapidash's level up learn set is quite bad, but let's see what we can do. Also, what the hell is going on here? I set up the barrier to try to mitigate some of the physical damage, but Purugly is just too fast. At least we don't get crit, and then Rapidash pulls out the Fire Blast, which I did not expect, and yet this freak of nature of a purple skunk still lives. Skunk Tank finally goes down, and Jupiter sends out her final Pokemon. I use Protect to give Rapidash another turn to wake up and to heal some health back. Rapidash is nearly taken out, and we go for an Ice Beam on Golbat. A huge crit for us there as Jupiter finally goes down. Rapidash doesn't wake up on the next turn though and goes down to another Slash, while we set up another barrier. Again, kinda happy it happened though because now Heracross finally joins the battle, and as long as Barry doesn't royally screw this up, we're looking very good right now. He's nearly taken out by Aerial Ace, but now it's our turn to strike. Ice Beam is fine, and here comes the Brick Break. Purugly is buried for the final time. Team Galactic is nearly finished, just one more fight to go. Surprisingly, I have already become fairly comfortable with this place. My route to complete the puzzle is pretty much set in stone, and generally speaking, it only takes me about 10 minutes to get through without speeding up. Our final confrontation with Team Galactic is upon us. Let's do this. Cyrus leads with Houndoom, and so naturally we go for Tentacruel. We go for the Surf. And Houndoom goes down. Honchkrow is in now, so we stay in and go for Ice Beam. Our attack erases a large chunk of pixels, and then Drill Peck is used in response. Also quite a bit of damage there, but we survive, and another Ice Beam puts the big boss Pokemon out of a job. Tentacruel has done a superb job so far, but now it's time to tag somebody else in. Gengar is perfect here, as we'll be expecting the Earthquake, and that's exactly what we get. A swift bolt of lightning will surely spell doom for the Water Dragon. The biggest threat of all enters the fight, and we switch into Toxicroak in anticipation of Night Slash. We need to avoid a crit here to survive. Toxicroak takes the hit, and now it's his turn to chop Weavile into pieces. Crobat is out last, and so we switch back into Gengar to hopefully finish this thing off. The Air Slash isn't too bad, but this Crobat will be faster, so we might have to avoid another crit here. Gengar holds on, and with one more Thunderbolt, Team Galactic is officially taken care of. With the climax of the story now out of the way, it's time to make our way over to Sunyshore City to pick up our final badge. I attempted to run through Sendoff Spring and back over to Route 214 to start our trip over there immediately, but I was quickly stopped by this guy again. I've never tried to do this before without visiting Professor Rowan first, so I wasn't sure what would happen, but I guess I have my answer now. So we swing by the old man's place for a little chit chat before swiftly returning back to the beginning of Route 222. Makes me wonder where this dude actually went after the power was restored. Also makes me question how long the power was actually out for an entire city. Feels like something that should have been resolved fairly quickly, but whatever. The trainers on this route are usually fairly underwhelming, I'd say. This Luxray to start the route is pretty cool, but it honestly goes downhill from there. Lots of higher level Pokemon, but not many to show off any interesting or even threatening abilities slash movesets. Another PP up is nice. And what is this place all about? Oh god, well, I gotta give this guy props for attempting to assemble such a team, but honestly, even if every last one of these were as strong as Red's Pikachu, I still don't think they would have had a chance. We wrap up the rest of the route by finishing off another sailor towards the end. Roserade pretty much had his way with everything, and we reach Sunyshore City, the final stop in our gym challenge. After a quick exchange with Flint, we heal up our Pokemon and head towards the lighthouse to speak with Volkner. The Zap Plate may not be super useful for us. I suppose Gengar could utilize it if there were some sort of water or flying threat that required it, and Tentacruel was holding the Choice Specs instead. Seems like a pretty unlikely scenario, so it probably won't get used much. You know, Volkner complains a lot about how there aren't any trainers tough enough to push him to his limits in battle, but were there any trainers at all to begin with? You know, with the city being out of power for probably months at this point? Actually, now that I think about it, how the hell did Sunyshore lose power out of all the towns and cities in the region? The city with a deep electric type presence and roads made of literal solar panels. Then again, Volkner's gym looks like it could suck up enough energy to shut an entire street down, so maybe that's what happened. In any case, it would appear that Volkner is interested in challenging the league as well, and it's our job to show him he's not good enough. Let's do this. We lead with our Toxicroak against his Jolteon. The exchange starts with the incoming Charge Beam for a moderate amount of damage, and then we respond with Earthquake. Jolteon falls as we level up, and Volkner's Ace makes an early appearance. Confident in our speed and power, I keep Toxicroak in and go for Earthquake again. This might be close. And Electivire goes down. That Soft Sand is putting in quite a lot of work. Luxray is up next, and since Game Freak forgot to give it Intimidate, another Earthquake is unleashed. However, it would appear that Luxray is a bit tankier than expected, and we get hit with a vicious Thunderfang. Luckily, no crit there, and Toxicroak is able to play the rest of this out without any further issue. Raichu's out last, and wouldn't you know it, we're faster. And although Raichu has quite the chunky boy aesthetic to him, he ain't gonna survive this one. Not the cleanest of sweeps, but Toxicroak still gets the job done, granting us the final badge of the run. I will say that despite having only 5 team members left, I'm feeling pretty okay right now about the overall outlook of the run. Both Lucian and Cynthia will pose one of, if not the biggest challenges that I have maybe ever faced in a run that I've done so far for the channel. What that has done though is bring the best out of everyone that remains. I really feel like I've gotten everything that I can out of these guys, and I'm really eager to find out if they have what it takes to get through the rest of this attempt. After speaking with Barry and Jasmine on the northern end of town to pick up our final HM and waterfall, I decided that now would be a perfect time to level up the team as a whole, and make sure that we are as prepared as possible for Victory Road. And I mean extra prepared. There are a lot of run killers in the random trainer category along the path to the Pokemon League, and I obviously can't afford to lose anyone else. Although, I suppose I have said that multiple times already in the run, and yet here we are, still going. With the team leveled up, it's time to traverse Sinnoh's only pure water route. For Route 223, we led with Gengar pretty much the entire time just to be safe. If this Mantine can go down to a single Thunderbolt, then so will literally everything else here. The rare candy on the northern end of the area is quite handy, and with our first usage of Waterfall, let's make the trek through Victory Road. I would normally say that we're going to try and avoid as many trainers as humanly possible, but you really can't avoid too many at all in this place. Battles are almost entirely mandatory in one way or another, and just like we did with Route 223, Gengar will be leading the way for the most part. As much as I don't really enjoy using nothing but choice specs on an S tier Pokemon, with only 5 of us left, it feels kinda necessary to utilize our power to its fullest at all times here. It is fortunate that Gengar's coverage hits a very large portion of the obstacles in Victory Road. Thunderbolt for all the flying types, Shadow Ball for all the ghost and psychic types, and the move Psychic itself to deal with the fighting type threats. Honestly, those 4 types probably make up at least half of all the Pokemon we'll be running into here. Ace Trainer Mariah is one of the exceptions here for sure, sporting a team that resists many of Gengar's attacks and also having a specially defensive presence on top of that. Toxicroak should do well here. Brick Break destroys the light screen Blissey just set up, as well as giving us our token Gen 4 health bar moment. Can we all just take a moment to acknowledge how absolutely insane Magneton and Magnezone would be if they had Levitate as an ability? Surely Game Freak thought about it at some point a while back and came to a similar conclusion. Glalie comes out last, and one final attack gets us through safely. The biking section goes by pretty quickly as we continue to navigate through the caves. Ace Trainer Omar is technically avoidable I think, but I wasn't careful and ran into him anyway. Thankfully, Gengar's Shadow Balls were enough to wipe out everything without any issues. As scary as his team is, they all have a glaring weakness to special attacks, so this worked out for us. Sydney is up next with her Clefable and Torterra. Gengar wasn't actually able to defeat Clefable with a single strike, and Sydney was able to pull off the Reflect in response. And now we have her starter to deal with, which we don't have a great answer for, unfortunately. I had a feeling Torterra was going to be really tough to navigate around at some point during our run. I just didn't expect it to be here in Victory Road. I send in Tentacruel in the crunch, and then I follow up with a Protect just to see what Torterra wants to use here, just in case it doesn't have Earthquake for some reason. It does though, and we don't really have any other options here than to use Ice Beam and pray that it kills. It is a favorable range for us. Let's see what happens. Torterra falls, and Tentacruel lives to see another day. We breeze through Veteran Clayton quite easily with Gengar as we press forward, and as tanky as Black Belt Miles' Machamp can be, a Choice Specs boosted Psychic is enough to take him down as well. Moving over to the water sections, we deal with another Psychic with a combination of Gengar, Toxicroak, and Roserade. Nice to see another team member come out to play here. The Absol did get up a double team in between turns, but our Toxicroak was unfazed. I initially kept him in to deal with Dusknoir as well, but that proved to be a bit too much for him, so we had Roserade drain whatever life remained from the bulky ghost. Heading up the first waterfall, the Dragon Tamer was a joke, so we won't even get into that, and we are getting very close now. Veteran Edgar was tough as always, although I did lose the footage for this somehow, so nothing to show here unfortunately. And after figuring out OBS, I just sped through Dragon Tamer Clinton because it's Dragon Tamer Clinton. Seriously, why is this guy Victory Road's final trainer? Veteran Edgar probably would have been better placed here, but I guess you can consider this as somewhat of a reward for getting through the cave in one piece. A victory lap, if you will. With one final stride, we step through the light at the end of the tunnel, and despite everything we've been through up until this point, we finally made it. There's just one last roadblock standing between us and the League, and it's a rough one, but we didn't come all this way just to lose to our rival. Let's do this. We send in Gengar first, as is the theme of this episode, and Barry leads with his usual My Chemical Staraptor. We went for the Psychic this time, as Staraptor is of course immune to our Shadow Balls. And it's enough to bring it down. Barry's ace joins the fray, and unironically will be one of the bigger mountains to climb in this fight. We're going to handle it the exact same way we did with the last one, but even with the extra levels, will it be enough this time? Another Torterra falls. With Snorlax out now, we pivot through Gengar on the Earthquake, and then into Toxicroak on the Crunch. And now we press Brick Break and pray. But it's not enough to take it down, and the Earthquake hits. But thankfully, Toxicroak survives, and another Brick Break sends Snorlax back to bed. Barry's Fire Horse is up next, and naturally we respond with Tentacruel. Upon switching in, Rapidash decides to set up the bounce, which is perfect for us. A Protect on the following turn negates the incoming attack, and then we respond with Surf. Rapidash goes down, and now Barry responds with Floatzel. We utilize Protect again just to see what it'll do, and it looks like Crunch, so we can't send in Gengar right away. We opt for Dustox instead and go for another Protect. Unfortunately, it looks like it still wants to use that Crunch, so we're going to have to leave Dustox in and see what he can pull off on his own. Another Crunch lands, but so does our Toxic. After stalling for a turn, we switch into Roserade next just to soak up some damage, and it is at this point that I realized we could have just pivoted through Roserade this entire time in order to get back to Gengar. Floatzel goes for the Ice Fang on our switch back into Gengar, and now we should be able to easily clean up what's left of Barry's Otter. And since we know his final Pokemon is going to be Heracross, we lock ourselves into Psychic instead of Shadow Ball or Thunderbolt here, so that we can deal with that monster as well. Heracross is all that is left, and with one final attack, it's time to bring our rival down for the final time. And with that, this episode is now over. In the next episode, we end this series in what I hope to be truly epic fashion. In the meantime, as usual, please like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more content like this. That's it from me. I'll see you next time.